Gold is around $5,400 right now as I record this. Silver is around 96, both breaking out, both surging, both tearing through resistance levels that have held for weeks. And by the time you are watching this, gold may have already smashed through 5,400 and be heading straight for the all-time high at 5,600. I'm going to explain at the end of this video exactly why 5,400 was the last line in the sand for sellers, the final hope that anyone had of pushing this price back down, and why once that level breaks the path to 5,600 and beyond is wide open with nothing in the way. But first, I need to show you what happened in the last 24 hours, because the footage coming out of the Middle East right now is unlike anything I have seen in my lifetime covering markets, and every second of it is pouring rocket fuel into this gold and silver breakout. Before I get into anything else, I need to play a piece of footage for you right now. Just watch this with me. I'm going to play it side by side on screen. Watch the sky. You can see the missiles coming in, multiple streaks falling from the sky, and listen to the people on the ground. They are screaming. They can see it coming and there is nothing they can do. What you just watched is Iran's Fatwa 2 hypersonic missile reaching its target. This missile was just used in combat for the first time ever. It carries what is called a hypersonic glide vehicle, which means after launch it detaches from the booster and glides toward its target at Mach 13 to Mach 15. That is 13 to 15 times the speed of sound. And here is the part that matters. Unlike a normal ballistic missile that flies in a predictable arc, this thing maneuvers. It changes direction mid-flight. It flies at a lower altitude than traditional ballistic missiles, between 12 and 30 kilometers, which puts it in a gap where long-range interceptors like Arrow 3 are designed for higher altitudes, and short-range systems like Iron Dome are designed for lower altitudes. The Fatwa 2 flies right through the middle where nothing is optimized to catch it. Israel's David's Sling system, which is their most advanced medium to long-range interceptor, more advanced than the American Patriot, more advanced than THAAD, fired over a dozen interceptors trying to stop this thing. Not one connected. And I have been trying to understand why, and here is what I have put together. A military analyst put it perfectly. He said, trying to intercept a hypersonic missile with a single interceptor is like trying to guard LeBron James with one defender. You keep chasing, but you are never going to stop him from scoring. These defense systems were designed to predict where a missile will be and put an interceptor in its path. But when the missile is traveling at Mach 13 and changing direction mid-flight, there is no path to predict. The math just breaks. And it gets scarier. Israel is reportedly running low on interceptor missiles. They may soon have to start choosing which incoming missiles to try to stop and which ones they just let through. Think about that. Choosing which city gets defended and which one does not. I have watched this footage over and over, and it does not get less terrifying. This was not some rogue missile that got lucky against outdated equipment. This was a next-generation weapon defeating a next-generation defense. And here is the part that should keep you up tonight. Iran's defense minister said publicly that the missiles they used in recent fighting were their older generation. He said Iran now has far greater capabilities that have not been deployed yet. What just defeated the best interceptors on the planet was Iran holding back. Now let me connect this to the USS Abraham Lincoln, because this is the part that keeps me up at night. That carrier is sitting in the Persian Gulf right now, and the Fatwa 2 is not the only threat pointed at it. Reports confirm that the Abraham Lincoln has already been targeted by 4 Iranian ballistic missiles. American troops have been killed. And the same type of missile technology that just defeated David's Sling, a system more advanced than anything protecting that carrier, is aimed at our naval forces right now. Each Fatwa missile costs Iran about $200,000. A single American Tomahawk costs over $3 million. An aircraft carrier costs $13 billion. The economics of this war favor the attacker in a way that should terrify every military strategist in Washington. And think about what this means for gold. The entire risk calculation on the planet just changed. Every institutional investor who was pricing in the assumption that missile defense works just watched it fail on camera. That assumption is dead. And when a core assumption about global security dies, safe haven assets do not go up 10%. They reprice entirely. That is what you are seeing in gold right now. That is why 5,400 is breaking. And that is only the beginning of what has happened in the last 24 hours. A ballistic missile struck Jerusalem. Not a military base outside the city. Jerusalem. 5 casualties have been reported. Missiles are now hitting one of the most sacred cities on Earth. A U.S. weapons depot in Erbil, Iraq, was hit directly by an Iranian ballistic missile. The initial strike was followed by massive secondary explosions. When a weapons depot starts cooking off with secondary blasts, it means the stored munitions are detonating. Ammunition, missiles, explosives. All of it going up. American weapons, stored on what was supposed to be a secure American base, destroyed by an Iranian missile that our defenses did not stop. And then came the announcement that changed the entire nature of this conflict. Iran has declared a religious decree, a fatwa. They are calling vengeance against America a sacred duty. Terror cells have been activated. This is no longer a military conflict between nations. Iran has turned this into something much larger and much harder to contain. They are calling on people around the world, not armies, not governments, people, to act. And we are already seeing the consequences of that call. I need to pause here and say something. What is happening right now is costing real human lives. People have died in Jerusalem. American service members are in danger every hour. Civilians across the Middle East are living in fear. I cover gold and silver. That is what this channel does. But I'm also a human being, and I want to be clear that none of what is happening is good. The fact that these events drive the price of the metals I cover does not make me celebrate them. It makes me more determined to help you understand what is happening and protect what you have built. That is all I can do from behind this camera. Welcome to the hidden economy. If you are new here, this is where I break down the data that the mainstream is not connecting. If you care about your savings, your purchasing power, your future, hit subscribe right now. This situation is escalating every single hour. Hit the hype button underneath this video. Help me get this in front of more people. Let's go. Now let me take you through the full sequence because every single piece of what happened feeds into the next one, and by the end, you will see why this breakout has legs that no other rally in recent history has had. After the killing of Supreme Leader Khamenei, the expectation from Washington and Tel Aviv was that Iran would crumble, that the people would rise up, that the regime would fracture, that there would be chaos and then surrender. That is not what happened. What happened is the opposite. Iran appointed a new interim supreme leader within hours. Ayatollah Ali Reza stepped into the role immediately. The command structure did not collapse, it reconstituted. The military did not stand down, it escalated. And the Iranian people did not take to the streets against their government. Many of them took to the streets in mourning, in anger, demanding revenge, and Iran is delivering that revenge with a level of military precision that nobody expected. Not Washington, not Tel Aviv, not me. The hypersonic missile that evaded 12 Israeli interceptors was not a lucky shot. I have been thinking about this, and I am now convinced that was a deliberate demonstration. Iran chose to fire that missile at a target they knew was protected by David's Sling specifically, so the world would see what happened next. They wanted that footage out there. They wanted every military in the world to watch their best technology fail. And it worked. That footage is everywhere right now, and everyone watching it is asking the same question I am. What else can those missiles hit? And it gets worse. I told you in my last video that a former CIA officer warned about hypersonic anti-ship missiles. At the time, some people in the comments said that was fear-mongering. I already showed you what happened to the Abraham Lincoln. Now combine that with what we just watched on camera. The Fatwa 2 with its Mach 13 glide vehicle that no interceptor could touch. The Patriot systems protecting our bases, filmed repeatedly failing. If the old missiles are already getting through, and Iran says they have not used the advanced ones yet, what happens when they do? I'm not speculating. I am reading the data in front of me. The data says our defensive technology has a problem it cannot solve fast enough. Then Iran went after the economic lifeline of the entire planet, the Strait of Hormuz. 20 to 30% of the world's oil supply moves through that narrow waterway every day, and Iran just attacked it directly. They struck an oil tanker transiting the strait, 20 crew members on board, 4 injured. This is not a warning shot. This is Iran saying that if they are going to burn, the global economy burns with them. Then Iran started blocking ships from entering the strait entirely. 3 Pakistani cargo ships were turned away. Think about that. Pakistan, a country whose people just attacked the US Consulate in solidarity with Iran, cannot get its own ships through the strait. Iran is not picking friends and enemies here. They are shutting it down for everyone. And that is the most dangerous version of this scenario. When a choke point closes indiscriminately, there is no diplomatic workaround. There is no side channel. The oil stops, or it does not. Iran has effectively claimed sovereign control over the strait. S&P Global is now reporting that oil could surge above $110 a barrel if the strait stays disrupted, and 110 is the conservative estimate that assumes Iran partially restricts traffic. If they fully close the strait, and they are clearly moving in that direction, you are looking at oil at 150, 200, maybe higher. Remember the 1973 oil embargo? That was a partial restriction, and it reshaped the global economy for a decade. What Iran is doing right now is more aggressive than anything OPEC did in '73. And the world is more dependent on Middle Eastern oil now than it was then. Every dollar that oil goes up is a dollar that gas goes up at the pump. Groceries go up at the store. Shipping costs go up for every business in America. Heating your home costs more. Flying anywhere costs more. The inflation that the Fed has been fighting for 2 years is about to get reinforcements that make everything they have dealt with so far look like a warm-up. Now, if the oil tanker attack and the Strait blockade were the only things that happened today, that alone would be enough to justify gold breaking out. But Iran was not done. They also destroyed one of America's most critical military assets in the region. A U.S. early warning radar system in Qatar. This was not a small piece of equipment. This was a $1.1 billion radar installation that could detect missile launches up to 5,000 kilometers away. It was the eyes of the American military across the entire Middle East. And Iran destroyed it, not with a $1 million cruise missile, with a $2,000 kamikaze drone. A $2,000 drone just took out a $1 billion radar. The cost ratio on that should make every taxpayer sick. And now that the radar is gone, Iran can launch missiles across the region with less warning time for American forces. That is not a theoretical disadvantage. That is people dying because they had 3 fewer seconds to take cover. Now let me show you what happened in Pakistan, because this is where the conflict stopped being a war between governments and started becoming something much more unpredictable. And for gold and silver, unpredictable is the most bullish word that exists. The U.S. Consulate in Karachi, Pakistan, was attacked by a mob. Hundreds of people stormed the building. They broke windows. They set fires inside. They carried flags and chanted about avenging Khamenei. Pakistan has the second largest Shia population in the world after Iran. Somewhere between 10 and 15% of Pakistan's population is Shia. Millions of Pakistanis saw the killing of Khamenei as a direct attack on their faith. And they responded by attacking the closest American target they could find. The Americans inside the consulate initially waited. They hoped it was a protest that would burn itself out. But when the mob started breaking inside, when the fires started spreading, American security personnel opened fire. Al Jazeera is reporting 9 to 10 Pakistani protesters were shot and killed. American security personnel killing Pakistani civilians on Pakistani soil. I want you to sit with that for a moment. Think about what that does to an already fragile relationship between 2 nuclear-armed nations. Think about what happens when those images spread on social media across the Muslim world. Think about what happens when the next embassy in the next country looks at Karachi and decides to do the same thing. And this is happening while the Trump administration is actively supporting Pakistan in their conflict against the Taliban. The same week that Trump called Pakistan's military chief his favorite field marshal. The same week that the U.S. affirmed Pakistan's right to self-defense. And now American security forces have killed Pakistani citizens inside Pakistan. The contradictions in this situation are so extreme, they would be absurd if people were not dying. And this is what the Fatwa is designed to do. Iran has turned this into something that no military can solve. Think about it. You can shoot down a missile. You cannot shoot down an idea. You cannot deploy a carrier group against a crowd of people who believe in their bones that fighting back is their sacred duty. That is a completely different kind of threat. And it is spreading to countries that are not even part of the conflict. Every time it spreads, every time another embassy gets attacked, every time another front opens in a country that was not on anyone's radar, gold and silver go higher. Because the market is doing what it always does when risk becomes impossible to measure. It buys the one thing that has no counterparty: metal. So let me recap where we are right now, because I want to make sure you have the complete picture. Gold is breaking out at 5,400. Silver is breaking out at 96. Iran's hypersonic missiles have proven they can evade the best defense systems on Earth. Jerusalem has been hit by ballistic missiles. A U.S. weapons depot in Iraq is burning. A $1 billion American radar has been destroyed by a $2,000 drone. The Strait of Hormuz is being choked. Oil is surging. A religious decree has been issued calling for vengeance against America. The U.S. consulate in Pakistan has been stormed and set on fire. American security forces killed Pakistani civilians. And Iran has already replaced its dead supreme leader and is promising that the worst is yet to come. That is not a situation that resolves quickly. That is a situation that escalates. And all of that is flowing into gold and silver in real time. Let me explain the mechanics of what is happening in the metals market right now, because this breakout is not random, it is structural. Gold at 5,400 is pressing against a level that has been resistance for weeks. Every time gold approached this zone, sellers stepped in. Institutional shorts added positions. Paper contracts were dumped to cap the price. And every single time, the buying pressure absorbed it and came back for more. What you're seeing right now, this push through 5,400, is the moment where the sellers have exhausted their ammunition. They threw everything they had at this level. They shorted it. They dumped paper. They tried every trick that has worked for decades to keep gold under control, and it did not work. The physical demand is too strong. The geopolitical risk is too real. The supply is too tight, and now the sellers are trapped. Every short position that was open to cap gold at 5,400 is now underwater. And as gold pushes higher, those shorts get squeezed. They have to buy back their positions to limit their losses. That buying pushes gold higher, which puts more shorts underwater, which forces more buying. This is the cascade. Silver at 96 is the same story, but with even more explosive potential. Silver's market is tiny. I've told you this before. The entire above-ground silver market is worth less than what Apple makes in a quarter. A few $100 million of concentrated buying can move the COMEX silver price by dollars per ounce. And right now, the buying is not a few $100 million. It is coming from every direction. Safe haven demand. Industrial demand from solar and military, central bank accumulation, retail stacking, and the Chinese physical market, which was paying 120 just days ago while Western exchanges were still printing 93. That gap between Eastern physical prices and Western paper prices is the spring that is coiled and ready to snap. When it snaps, silver does not move in dollars, it moves in multiples. Now here is what I promised you at the beginning of this video, why 5400 matters. Why this breakout could be the one that changes everything. I have been waiting to tell you this because I wanted you to understand the full picture first. I wanted you to see the missiles, the oil tanker, the radar, the embassy, the Fatwa, all of it, before I showed you what the chart is doing. Because when you see the chart in the context of everything I just told you, you will understand why this is different from every other breakout attempt. 5400 was not just another round number. It was the last major technical resistance before the all-time high at 5600. Every technical trader on the planet had that level circled. It was the spot where the 200-day moving average converged with the previous rejection high and the upper Bollinger Band. In my career, I have seen maybe a handful of times where three major technical indicators stack perfectly at one price. When those three things line up, it creates a wall that sellers can lean against and defend, and they defended it. Multiple times in the last few weeks, gold pushed toward 5400 and got smacked back down. Paper selling, institutional shorts, futures dumping, the usual playbook that has capped gold rallies for 20 years. But this time, the wall is cracking. And it is cracking because the force hitting it is not a normal rally. It is not speculation. It is not retail buying. It is a war. It is hypersonic missiles that cannot be stopped. It is oil tankers being attacked. It is a $1 billion radar vaporized by a $2,000 drone. It is a religious decree calling for vengeance against America. No amount of paper shorting can hold back that kind of force. You can dump all the futures contracts you want. The physical market does not care. The physical market is watching missiles fly and buying every ounce it can find. As of right now, that wall is breaking. And when it breaks, there's almost nothing between here and the all-time high at 5600. 5400 was the last real fight. 5600 is the all-time high. And once that falls, there is nothing above it. No resistance, no ceiling, no overhead supply. There's a term that traders use for this. They call it a breakout into the blue sky. It means there is no historical price data above you to act as resistance. Every single holder of gold is in profit. There is no one waiting to sell at break even. There is no trapped inventory sitting overhead, waiting to be dumped. Just open sky. And the catalyst pushing gold toward that open sky is a war that has no off-ramp, an oil crisis that has no solution, and a defense paradigm that just failed on camera for the world to see. The people who have been capping gold at 5400 just ran out of firepower. And the people buying gold just got handed every reason in the world to never stop. Silver follows gold in breakouts, but it follows with leverage. This is the part that most people do not understand, and it is the part that creates the biggest gains. Historically, when gold breaks to new all-time highs during a geopolitical crisis, silver outperforms by a factor of 2 to 3. The reason is simple. Silver is both a precious metal and an industrial metal. In a crisis, it gets bought as a safe haven just like gold. But it also gets consumed by the industries that are working overtime during a war, defense manufacturers, electronics companies building military equipment, solar panel producers racing to meet energy independence demands while oil prices surge. All of them need silver. And the mine supply cannot increase because you cannot open a new silver mine in the middle of a war. It takes a decade to bring a new mine online in peacetime. In wartime, it is effectively impossible. So the buying doubles and the supply stays flat. That is the recipe for a move that makes gold's rally look tame. If gold runs 20% from here, silver runs 40 to 60%. At 96 right now, a 60% move puts silver at 153. And that assumes the crisis does not get worse. Every new development I have shown you today, the hypersonic missile, the oil tanker, the radar, the embassy, the Fatwa, every single one suggests it is getting worse by the hour. Silver at 153 might end up being the conservative call. I want to be real with you about where I think we are. I have been covering gold and silver through rallies, through crashes, through every kind of fear cycle that exists, and what I am looking at right now does not fit into any category I have seen before. This is not a fear trade. Fear trades spike and fade. This is not a geopolitical premium. Geopolitical premiums get priced in and the market moves on. What this is, and I have been thinking about how to say this for the last few hours, is a permanent repricing of risk. The world before this week and the world after this week are two different worlds, and the price of gold in those two worlds is two different prices. We are watching the market figure out what the new price is, and it has not finished figuring it out yet, not even close. Now, let me tell you what I am watching going forward. 3 triggers that will determine whether gold goes to 6,000 or goes to 10,000. And I am not throwing those numbers out to be dramatic. I am throwing them out because the scenario analysis demands it. First, the Strait of Hormuz. If Iran fully closes the strait, oil goes parabolic. Everything gets more expensive overnight. Inflation explodes beyond anything the models predict. The Fed is paralyzed because raising rates into a war economy causes a depression, and cutting rates into an oil shock causes hyperinflation. There is no right move. Gold becomes the only safe harbor in a storm that has no end date. And it stays that harbor for months, possibly years, because reopening a strait that Iran has mined and militarized is not a week-long operation. It is a campaign. Second, the U.S. aircraft carriers. The Abraham Lincoln has already been targeted. American troops have already died. After watching the Fatwa 2 defeat David Sling on camera, the next strike could be the one that changes everything. If a carrier goes down, the American response will be total, and the escalation becomes irreversible. Central banks go from record gold buying to emergency gold buying overnight. Third, the spread of the conflict beyond the Middle East. Pakistan was the first domino. An embassy burned, civilians died. Where's the next one? There are American embassies and consulates in dozens of countries with significant Muslim populations. The Fatwa did not name Pakistan specifically. It did not name any country. It called on everyone. Where that call gets answered next, whether it is Southeast Asia, North Africa, Europe, or somewhere else entirely, that is the trigger that nobody in the market is modeling. An unmodeled risk is the kind of risk that moves gold the fastest and the farthest. If you have been holding gold and silver, stay the course. The thesis is playing out exactly as the data predicted. Volatile days are coming. There will be pullbacks. There will be ceasefire rumors. There will be mornings where you wake up and gold is down $100 and everyone on social media is screaming that it is over. It is not over. The structural drivers, the supply deficits, the central bank buying, the industrial demand, the geopolitical risk, none of that goes away with a headline. Trust what you own. Trust why you own it. If you have been on the sidelines, I will not tell you what to do. I never have. But I will tell you this. 5,400 was the last line of defense for the sellers. That line is breaking right now. Once it is gone, there is almost nothing between here and the all-time high at 5,600. And once 5,600 falls, there is nothing but blue sky. Every person who has been waiting for a pullback to buy is about to learn the hardest lesson in markets. Sometimes the pullback does not come. Sometimes the breakout just goes, and you either got on before it left or you watch it from the station. Drop a comment. Tell me where you think gold closes this week. Tell me where silver goes. Does the Strait of Hormuz get fully shut down? Does Iran hit a carrier? I want to hear what you think. I will pin the best predictions. Share this video right now. There are people in your life who have savings sitting in cash that is losing value every single hour this war continues. They need to see this. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Help me reach them. If you're new here, go watch the previous videos in this series. I called every one of these developments before they happened. The Iran escalation, the silver breakout, the China supply crisis, the oil choke point. Every single video is linked in the description. Watch them in order, and you will see how all of this fits together. This is the hidden economy. Stay sharp. Stay stacking. 5,400 is breaking, 5,600 is next, and nothing on this earth can stop what comes after that.